on the Camera website. You'll get a lot more there, but probably should say something that cannot be caught at that level. Then we have got Wambui Barire. Again, you will get a lot of information on Wambui if you go to Google. She's the CEO of RETRAC, Regional Trade Association of Kenya. We do not have Nabongo yet, but we have got Tatek, who's with Technosat Ethiopia. And I will not go beyond that. I will hand over to Dr. Lusike to pick up from there and guide us through this discussion. Welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm so sorry I was on African time. So the sun wasn't doing it for me, so I was almost going to come an hour later, but somehow I have some chief whip here who came and whipped me and my colleague back to this meeting. So I'm so grateful that we're all here today. Something none of you know anything about. I am a magnet for children. All the children in my neighborhood are always in my house, playing everywhere. Their parents always wonder, what are these kids doing here? And then even I used to wonder what they were doing. They were always coming into the house, always. Until one day I had one of them saying, you know, over here there are no rules. Now I understood. They can come up to 16 children from age 2 onwards up to 20. Always, all the time. So that's something you'll never know about me. I'm a child magnet. So I'm going to now ask, before we continue on and I do an introduction, let all the panelists introduce themselves. It's always ladies first. So I'll have Bonnie to introduce us.
Thank you very much. As I said, my name is Wambui Barire. I run the Retail Trade Association of Kenya. Lately, we've been involved in a lot of food and food safety related discussions, more so because part of our membership as an association is made up of supermarkets and the food eatery sector. Supermarkets are increasingly selling fresh fruit and vegetables, and more so because we are very consumer facing, and at the same time we do not have a very strong consumer body. We play the role of ensuring that what we sell and what is being used in the eateries to cook is beginning to meet an element of food safety for the sake of the consumer. The thing that I would say that most people will probably not find on Google in relation to me is you don't have to sit next to me on an eating table, lunch, breakfast, or dinner. I'm a pest when it comes to food waste. So I don't care how much food is remaining and you're full. You knew when you were serving, so serve only that which you can finish.
So we're here with the pest of food waste. I sat with her at lunchtime, and thank God I finished my food. I would have been eaten up by the pest. That's something, the pest of food waste. That will be a question at the end of this workshop. So we next have one of the panelists from a country that was never ever colonized, with an extremely sexy name. I don't see a ring on his hands. So ladies out there, you must beat me to get to him. He's Tatek. Let Tatek introduce himself.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So, my name is Tatek. I come from Ethiopia, and I'm here to share our experience with farmers, more specifically with market access and market linkage. And I came from Technosolve. I have been working with that organization for the past 4 years and on horticulture. Now we are working also on herbs and spice, which is part of the horticulture, which when I have a chance I will be discussing a little bit more about that, because a lot of people have been talking about vegetable and fruit early morning. So I'll be talking about that. So we totally work with the smallholder farmers, and we are working also with private sector. That is the experience of Technoserve. More importantly, we have been working on coffee, and you might heard repeatedly the name Technoserve attached to coffee. Now we are also working on horticulture products. So thank you. A unique thing about me, you may not find me in Google's because I am not there all the time, and I'm working with the farmers, and you may find me out working with the farmers. So we are bringing our farmers and myself to the Google so that to connect with the digital technology that might support also the market.
Oh, I'm so sorry, ladies. You might have to come close to him. The sexy Tatek is unavailable online. Now, when we like to take a little bit of Kabosi, as I call it, or Uganda Waragi, I don't understand why no Waragi was written next to our next panelist. Another extremely sexy guy. Why are they people all these sexy people? This is not good at all. These men are in trouble, but I can handle you both, don't worry. So, our next panelist, let him introduce himself, Nabongo.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nabongo Arnold. I'm from Uganda, from Flona Commodities Limited. Flona Commodities is a family-owned company, now generational, now to the sons. My father was Mr. Isiko, who started this company in 1995. He passed on, God rest his soul. And as the boys, we took over. It's a dried fruit export, fresh dried fruit pulp export company, where we deal mainly in exports of fruits and vegetables, pineapple, banana, jackfruit, papaya, to mention a few, and export to the EU Asian market, as well as also the regional market around near Kenya. We're also dealing with smallholder farmers, whereby we are responsible to train them in good agricultural practices, and also make sure that they are carrying out the requirements needed for the export market, and also make sure that we give them different incentives on how to dry those products to meet the export market requirements. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You can keep that microphone. So I'm just going to remind you all what we're here today for. If you're analog like me, you have a hard copy. Oh, I'm no longer analog. I'm on Uber. And you'll have noticed that today I joined. Thanks be to the youth. They made sure I became Uber compliant. But so today our sub-theme 3 focuses on market access, linkages, emerging market trends, and in part quite a bit will be presented today, and consumer preferences that can be explored for sector development. Emerging market trends and consumer preferences. What are those market linkages? So I'll give you a little bit of a preamble just to get my team here up to speed on some of the areas that we want to discuss here about issues of marketing. Because one of those examples I always give when it comes to marketing is that there was a time, about 2006-07, I took 50 tissue culture banana seedlings to my mom. So then she asked me, what are these things? I told her, this is banana. She looked at them and she told me, these are not bananas. Bananas don't look like that because they were small. Then I told her, no, you just plant them, they're bananas. My mom gave away 6, then planted the others. When they began bearing after about a year, she wanted to go and approve the ones she had given away to return them because they were truly bananas. Now imagine if I told my mom, can you plant tissue culture banana, just talking like that. And then I said that tissue culture banana is a banana that is grown in a vessel like this, then it grows. Would she have understood? So what did I do in terms of marketing? I actually took a sample to my mom and showed her. Even after her looking, she could not identify that that was a banana because they used to plant in sword suckers. So the issue of marketing is very intricate, and we really need to really understand it. And now that we have all these products, like my colleague here said, where they're drying everything from dried jackfruit. I ate some of them yesterday. How do you start marketing jackfruit? First of all, somebody will ask, what fruit is it that is called jack? And then they'll wonder. So, but if we don't, because it's what the market wants, if you have water in a bottle that is black and you try to sell it, some might be bought, but a lot won't. Usually it will be bought by colorblind men. But if you sell the water in a bottle like this blue, then you are able to market, because we're trying to create products that the market actually wants. We want to know, now it's all about competition, the thing about herbs and spices. They are really coming, particularly now in the COVID era. So now, how do you package these herbs and spices so that now that they stand up above the rest? How do you market, let's say, ginger? How do you do that? Is it dried ginger? Is it the whole root ginger? Is it liquid ginger? And then with all these different market trends and even the platforms that we can use to market, you can use the digital marketing using the WhatsApp tools, Facebook, marketing with clips, YouTube, marketing with posters, marketing with people actually coming to test and sample. Marketing in a conference like this, it becomes very confusing and very competitive. How do you get to the consumer? Why should the consumer buy your products? It is said in markets in Europe, if you want to buy the best quality, now I'm not sure, the best quality product, go and get the ugliest box, because that product is coming from Kenya. The best quality in the ugliest box. So what do we need to do to remove that and have nice, sexy packaging? And that's your question. You're going to start with that one. I'm still doing my preamble. That's the problem with them putting women inside things in moderating. We have too many words. Now, when we're doing all of this marketing and trying to get people to eat, consumption, consume, how do you convince somebody to eat jackfruit? Why wasn't it jailfruit? Why is it just jackfruit? All these fruits have male names. When are we going to change it and give it a female name? Eh?
It's okay.
So when we're promoting with all these tools, all these platforms that are available to us, to using all these different technologies to be able to market these foods. You know, women like beautiful, sexy looking things, to be able to go and pick them and buy them. So that we're creating visibility and awareness of the different products we have. For me, I promote guava. I say a guava day will keep the prostate healthy. Now I have all the men in the room. They'll be looking for me for those guavas that will keep their prostate. So we use whatever it is to be able to market. We're looking at consumer behavior to try and see how we can influence it to buy what we have. I've given you the preamble, and you have your questions, but I'll tell you the objectives of the center. We're here to identify, and here now read, affecting market access both locally, regionally, and internationally. What are those factors affecting market access? That's the first objective. The second one, we need to understand how to develop competitive strategy for new market opportunities, both regionally and internationally, every time there are new products. The third objective of this particular panel is to identify various efforts which can be implemented to help, especially the small scale, and there are many, 80% producers, to access regional and international markets. What do we need to do? Those are the objectives of this panel today. So with that in mind, you guys introduced yourself and then you said too much. But I know there are people here who are analogs. They might have forgotten even what you're saying. So I'd like you first to begin by 5 minutes. Just give us a little bit more juice about your company. What is it all about? And then while giving us that, bring in the issues of marketing and what are those niche markets that you've come across. So I'll start with the only name. This time my gender balance. We can beat you, man. 50-50%. So, my boy, you answer and talk enough so that you make sure that nobody remembers what the men say.
Thank you. There's a reason where people say, pray that you're not put on a panel of or be careful what you say in the room where she is, because you might say the wrong thing. So my name again is Wambui. I run the Retail Trade Association of Kenya. It's a business membership organization that brings together retailers. We have 3 subsectors within it. We have the supermarkets, then we have food eatery, and then we have specialty retail. Specialty retail is everything else that is not food or supermarket. That means fashion, apparel, books, optics. That's what forms a specialty group. Those questions were many. So I'll start with market access.
Just talk general, you don't have to remember.
Let me talk about market access. One of the things that we've seen as the supermarkets grew in matters related to food was the challenge of getting consistent quality supply. Because it was a new sector, what would happen is that we would either get a broker, quote unquote, an aggregator, who would then give an order, and then he'll go bring for you whatever it is you're buying. Specifically because not many people are buying fresh fruit and vegetables from the supermarket. There's still a tendency to prefer the informal sector, i.e. the Mama Mboga in Ngara or in Kikomba. Those are local Kenyan markets. For preference, because of price, because of assumption of quality, and just by culture. Those were not things we bought in the supermarket. But as the supermarket started sourcing for themselves and creating a better view of what was available, particularly, and I'm sure most women will agree with me, the leafy green in a supermarket calls you. And I like to tell people there is usually an assumption that the supermarket is more expensive than your outside market. And I challenge people all the time. Go inside and buy a bunch of spinach and compare not only the quality, but also the volume of what you're getting. I have observed myself often, we find people in the informal sector actually are the first people in the supermarket in the morning. And they buy in bulk that very spinach, which they'll then go and divide into 5 sticks each, and sell to you the same thing, which means for what you'd have gotten for 20 to 25 shillings as a bunch, you now have to buy 5 sticks enough to, so it ends up being more expensive. The supermarkets have then gone one step further. Because we are consumer facing and we're looking to ensure that we don't get any backlash. For people who may remember, we had an incident that was called Red Alert, where we were accused of selling meat that had been compromised. So the backlash from a consumer will come to the retailer, whether you're the producer of the item or not. I bought it from you, so you're responsible for it. So to cover ourselves from that, we've taken a step further and started working directly with farms. Over the last 2 years, we've had a project we've run with the Rockefeller Foundation. Again, in this sector, you know that we have what is called KS 1758, which is a code of conduct, I'm told, not a standard, on food safety. It covers health, labor, hygiene, and the environment. And there's been a lot of talk about it. How can we ensure that 95% of the food grown in this country that is consumed in this country gets as much attention as the 5% which we export? The people we are exporting to and meeting the stringent measures that they've given our horticulture industry. When they land here, they eat what we eat, which has meant zero standard. So it's that 1758, we removed it from the boardroom where it had been from when the standard was done, I think sometime in 2016, 2015, and have actually taken it to the farm. So we've worked with a few farms to try and pilot implementation of that standard to see how we can work from farm to fork in matters of fresh fruit and vegetable to ensure that we can say that the produce we are selling is system certified, and we start to create a traceability system for the food that we're selling to ensure that should you have a challenge with it, we're able to trace it back to where we sourced it. Then there's always the question of the other challenge that we see in terms of market accessibility is also, I challenge the ministry often, and I see HCDs represented here, that we have not effectively mapped our country in terms of food. Because half the time when we're looking for food aid for people in the north, we have people in Nyandarua feeding cabbage to their cows. If we were able to map our food effectively, if we're able to create infrastructure around it, and that infrastructure does not involve just the roads, but how do we get back to what we used to have, which were farmer groups in terms of cooperatives, so that all these smallholder farmers in a given area are able to consolidate together their produce. That has the net effect of stabilizing market. It has the effect of ensuring the farmer gets the right price for his product. It also has the consequence of spreading the shelf life of that produce, because a lot of food that we grow in our country, and I came from Zimbabwe yesterday and I realized it must be an African problem, because we have not grown the infrastructure where we have, for example, cold chain rooms which allow us to harvest everything and store it to prolong the life. So once the season is at the end, we have a lot of food waste. The mangoes are rotting. In Zimbabwe, they are complaining that they have so much citrus, half the citrus goes to waste. Yet, as Kenyans, we don't seem to have enough citrus or the quality. So we're always importing from that side. How do we, even as an African continent, coordinate all that food mapping so that we are able to move the groundnuts from Malawi to Kenya, the citrus from Zimbabwe to Kenya, to move our cabbage to whichever country doesn't have enough cabbage? How do we create those linkages so that we're ensuring that accessibility? Once we have consolidated the small farmers and put them into farmer groups, we're able to capacity build them, do things like for example, with that 1758, an area can then together do the soil testing, the water testing, create the cold room centrally so that everyone has access to it, and then creates market. It gives the supermarkets constant supply, consistency in quality, and ensures that the farmer gets his due based on the amount of work he's done.
Excellent. I'm telling you, even if we can even stop this thing now. We've answered everything that we're asked to do. That was excellent. You've told us about food mapping, the issues of, you've really told us how to create those linkages. I'm hoping that the rapporteurs were able to write everything you said, because you've covered quite a bit. So I'm going to make it very easy on my two handsome gentlemen here. I'll have you address each one of the objectives. Like for TATEC, you're working on herbs and spices, and there are many. And they're the ones that boost the taste of foods or even drinks. In Kenya, there's this thing called dawa, which is ginger, lemon, or lime, and of course water, and at times we add sugarcane. But when you add ginger and honey, when you add ginger, it just pops, and it's so nice. So all of a sudden, ginger is a very hot commodity, and I have people talking about it today. Here you are, focusing on herbs and spices. This is one thing that I don't think any African country thought they'll ever do, but you're doing it. You're focusing, and you've obviously succeeded. That means you are competitive. You're able to grow these. So when you're now promoting herbs and spices, tell us how you're doing it. When you grow them, are you packaging in big sizes, or are you packaging in small, sexy sizes? Or are you packaging spice combinations for particular use? Tell us what you're doing. We now need to know the secrets of the only country in Africa that was never colonized, and I'm very proud of it.
Thank you. Before that, I want to give some highlight about how the world food habit is changing and demanding. Because the world food or nutrition habit have been changing gradually, and now we're talking about non-cereals, pulses, oilseed, and the other thing. Now we are at the era of horticulture, and a lot of demand have been coming. Those demand also entails a lot of challenges to us people. It's not easy going. It is there are some issues with that, and on top of that, the interest of the government is also to obtain this hard currency is there, and the unemployment or job creation is also one of the critical challenges for most of African countries, specifically Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, whatever. So these crops by nature are very demanding in terms of like taking labor, taking land, but spice and herbs can be grown in a small plot of land. And the challenge here to create access is how do you know whether the market is going to take it or not? So one of the critical challenges in marketing or creating linkage is to identify the demand. Not also demand, but also effective demand that also requires willingness to pay and the capacity to pay. Whomever may show a demand, but when it comes to the actual situation, that effective demand may not happen. So we start to identify which herbs and spices are marketable. That's a very important thing. Whatever we grow cannot be sold sometimes. That is a kind of business as usual. Now the world is changing quite a lot. So identifying the end customers, people usually, actually myself is using end customers or users. That's not. They are the end as well as the first to begin with the business. So we start identifying which herbs and spices are marketable, not also marketable, also exportable. So we identify a few crops like rosemary, lemongrass, rue, holy basil, and we identify also potential exporters. Because when you look at the herbs and the spice, householders may use small amount of it. It's not like potato, it's not like tomato or whatever. So it should be exported. And then when we identify the exporters, we identify also those exporters who have the capacity. Capacity in terms of, she mentioned also, the one who have a truck, the one who have a cold chain, the one who can pay the farmers on timely manner, because if they lost the trust, they cannot, start the business again. So the current piloting of those herbs and spices began in a small pocket of areas. We are working in like 2 regions, and then we saw a lot of changes. And there is a possibility also to grow these herbs and spice with avocado and mango. The reason I'm saying so, instead of waiting or advising farmers for the mango to come after a year, or mangoes to set fruit after 3 years, there is also a possibility to inculcate to the systems of herbs and spice. We're talking also land pressure, because a lot of users cannot obtain or access land. But optimizing the existing land is also another alternative we're looking into. And then the government also creates a conducive environment, conducive strategy and a policy to support or to start those businesses. Now we are working that with farmers cooperative, outdoor farmers in small, and then we identify already the off-taker or the exporter. We identify their demand, and then we are advising farmers to grow those things, and those identified herbs and spices being exported. Now the challenge is meeting those requirements. When we're exporting, it's not easy going, like having certification, either organic certificate or global gap certification is another issue. So previously we identified that organization or institution, the one who can also assist farmers to access that kind of certification. Now farmers are making business or have access to the market. While they are growing mangoes, avocados, they are still also selling rosemaries, lavender, lemongrass, and other ginger crops. So this is diversifying their income, as well as they are also contributing. One important thing is about climate. Every one of us are very much sensitive, and we are also discussing about climate. Those herbs and spices also contributing to environmental issues. Pests and disease may not happen on those areas which those medicinal herbs and aromatic herbs are grown. And even now a lot of research issues is there. We're working with one of the known research centers called Wonderland. They are specializing in those herbs and spice research, and how we can integrate coffee with herbs and spice, how we can integrate or grow avocado and those herbs and spice are being, because it might have some agronomic challenges. So it is under discussion and the research has been started. So for the hub, I will suggest also to think about herbs and spice. One in terms of absorbing a lot of uses that's already underemployed. That's a good opportunity since it has a low value chain. And secondly, also to think about climate change. And think about also inclusive business when you design a program or projects. So these are the potential areas that we started already. But in terms of we don't say we are excellent at those, having all those challenges.
I just wanted to touch his hand. I was pretending there. I had my microphone. But that was something about the herbs and spices. I mean, that was something that's, I really like what you said on inclusive business. And now these new researchable areas that you've now come up and brought up, that's really something to take on. The rapporteurs, make sure you tomorrow when you're reporting, if you miss anything, I'll stop you. Because this is some really good information on the topic that we're discussing today. Mr. jackfruit or jailfruit. Now, you're working on pineapple. We saw some of your products. I know you're drying many, but we saw pineapple, desiccated pineapple, we saw desiccated bananas. But what was unique was the desiccated jackfruit. And I know you have several others. When it comes to drying fruits, Uganda, I think in the EAC region, is the most advanced in that area. So it was quite nice to see your exhibition yesterday, and also the fact that it was a youth standing in front of that exhibition, knowing that now we know that this is an area that is doing well. And I thank your father for introducing you to it. So, let's forget about banana and pineapple. Everybody knows. Let's focus on jackfruit. How do you access or aggregate these jackfruits? Do you have plantations in Uganda? And if you don't, are there any plans to have those plantations? And then when you're drying, do you just dry any jackfruit, or you have particular varieties of jackfruit? Is there any research on jackfruit in Uganda? And yesterday I asked you, and I'm going to ask you now again, because people have to hear this. I asked, why is your jackfruit crunchy, like a biscuit? Because when you get jackfruit desiccated in Thailand and Malaysia, it's like a biscuit. It's very dry. Take us home, Nabongo.
Yes, thank you very much. Like I said, I'm Arnold Nabongo from Flona. Let me start by touching on the jackfruit. First and foremost, jackfruit is not indigenous to us. It was brought in by the Arabs during the trading. When they came in through Mombasa and were building the railway, that's when jackfruit was scattered all over East Africa, and Africa as a whole. We do not have, as per se, jackfruit plantations in Uganda, jackfruit actually grows wildly in Uganda. It's just of recent that people have started putting up seedling areas and small forest areas for jackfruit as a crop, but jackfruit is something that grows very naturally. So we first identified these smallholder farmers who had like jackfruit trees in their villages, in their plantations, and they were very scattered, and people used to actually use the trees as a form of wood, as a form of construction wood or making firewood or anything like that. They used to not see the fruit as a whole, as a way of making income. Although they used to use it as a way of subsistence at home, feeding with the kids, and a little bit of selling it here and there. Until we came up with this project of jackfruit, whereby we started drying jackfruit, but it wasn't easy. First and foremost, what we had to do was get all the farmers organized together. When we got them together, we had to map out and know how many jackfruits do we have in a certain area that we have actually mapped out under farmers. After getting them together, we had to train them on harvesting, post-harvesting, what's the use of jackfruit, and things like that, the use of jackfruit as a whole, as a crop, its medicinal properties, its way of livelihood when you want to eat. You can use it as a way of food. It was very difficult, it wasn't simple. Then, after that, we had to set them up with small dryers in their homesteads after training them, whereby we had to also involve the whole family as a whole, the children and the wives. We had to bring the husbands together, tell them, you know, we want to train you people, because you know the husband, when you go for training, the husbands are always the first ones to come. We had to bring them together and say, no, we need the whole family, because this is a project that is going to involve the whole family as a whole. So we want the kids, the kids who are like teenagers, not children, the teenagers who have been in holiday, school, university. We need them to get involved. We need the wives who are involved to come. And yes, we started training them. When we started training them, we set up small local dryers. We call them local dryers. We started with the local dryers, set them up in different village areas where our farmers are after training them. We tried this out, and it came out well, surprising. The first time we started with the jackfruit, it came out well. We gave some samples out to a few clients who came in, and they loved it. But there was still another challenge and a problem. Getting this product out to the export market, for example, EU or Asia, it had to be certified. It just couldn't go out like that. So, again, it comes back to certification. We had to get them certified. Getting them certified is not a very easy process. It's quite hard. So, you know, this involves soil sample, and jackfruit grows widely. You can't have a conversion period for jackfruit. Say you have to first give like 2 years before you begin planting. See, this is something you already found there, that is already grown. So yeah, it was a bit hard, but we were able to convince them that this is something that grows naturally. And once you know these trees were tested and checked, they have nothing like chemicals or anything involved in there, because this grows wildly. So that was the first good step. Yeah, putting them together, putting them in a group, training them, getting them certified. From there, we moved on. Now, trying to put it into the market. Getting it into the market, there's another problem. Where we put the local dryers, they kept saying, no, these are in homesteads, because you know these are farmers, and the farmers are in rural areas. Yeah? So these are all put in homesteads. So it's going to be a big problem getting this jackfruit out there, making sure that it meets the standards that they want. So what we had to do, we had to get them into, we had to put it into a book. We had to designate an area where we had to set up these small drying facilities for the farmers too, and set them up there. So when we got the whole place together and the whole place was certified, that's when now the farmers were able to bring their jackfruit there. When they bring the jackfruit in, it's weighed, it's checked, and it passed everything, all the requirements that were needed. From there, now we're ready to export. But now there was again another problem. Yeah? Problem over problem. But we did not give up. Yeah? Problem over problem. But we did not give up. We kept going with it because we could see that the jackfruit had very big potential out there. And the farmers themselves were also, they had in fact stopped cutting down the trees. And even stopped kids, because when kids are coming from school, they would jump onto the trees, just steal and run. And again, so we had to also designate areas, cordon off, making sure that please do not pass through here to jump on this jackfruit tree. So they became very strict with the trees around that village area. So the whole village area got involved, and it really enlightened them about the jackfruit. From there, we ourselves had to also set up a facility and research area for the jackfruit. And to my surprise, we also got to find out that jackfruit does not necessarily need to be eaten as sweet. It also can be eaten as a meat substitute for the vegan and vegetarian market out there. So now that means we had two products in one crop. That is both the sweet and the young. So this kept captivating the farmers. They got so interested, and they were like, hey, so we're able to earn twice, double. Like before we were only earning once, but now we're earning double. We're like, yes. Now we had to again, we did not want to kill all the yield estimates of the jackfruit tree. We had to come up with new methods of training, how to harvest, because we do not want to harvest everything on the tree, and the next season you have nothing. So you had to come up with plans and strategies on how you're going to harvest this crop, how you're going to enlighten these people to make sure that this remains sustainable. So, yes,
Okay, Nambongo, I'm going to stop you there. It's so interesting. But it looks like I'm going to continue talking with you afterwards, because I know the audience here has questions, and we need to give them some time. We'll be given only up to 2:35. I don't even know what the time is. So I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to ask these questions. The panelists have done a very good job addressing, and you can see the potential we have in the EAC in terms of product diversity. You've seen how we're following all these rules to be able to ensure we're addressing issues of food safety, and we're doing whatever we can do to be able to access markets. So do we have any questions, points of clarification? And I won't allow anybody to ask a question longer than 30 seconds. So we'll start 1, 2, and now I need 2 more men to do gender balance. This time it's women asking, what? And the men are so shy.
Maybe we would like to impress the men next to you.
They are taken, both of them.
Question about the varieties. We know that we have many varieties in mangoes, but do we know how many jackfruit varieties are in East Africa? And is there anybody doing serious research on breeding of the varieties or improving the varieties? Because I saw a nice picture from South Sudan where the jackfruit tree looks completely different than the trees that we have in Uganda.
Do you want
Both
to?
for you, I'm just answering.
There are quite a number of varieties. So far, during our research, we got to know around 15 different varieties, but I believe there are even more varieties of jackfruit that are there. In Uganda, the research is still ongoing about the different varieties, since this is a new product that has just come up, in the market. So the research is ongoing.
Okay, proceed.
Even in Kenya, we have jackfruit research. Our first variety is called Kerrigan, after our Director General. And then we have an additional 7. We have to suck up to authority. So but here in Kenya now there are 8 varieties of jackfruit that we're working with. Prof.
Okay, thank you very much. All panelists, my question goes to Mr. Tatek. You said he has a what name?
Very sexy name. She can't say that.
So Tatek, I just want to know, during COVID time, where I come from, the university, I'm in charge of research. So during that time, people wrote, there was a special call from our National Research Fund to look at herbs and spices and their role in the medicinal value, especially for COVID, like someone said. Can we put science in this? Because we know they work, we know that we have taken these herbals and they help us. Can we put science in it? Because that's what we are challenged by the international community. You say they work. What is the science? What is the active ingredient? How far have you gone with that? Because it's an area that you can exploit from the researchers and from the universities. Please put some light on what you've done in that area, and if we can exploit so that we can be able to put science in the truth. Because the truth, we know it works, but can we put science in it by doing more research? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think this is one of the critical areas that we need support from the hub, because out of any recommendation or research, it is sometimes difficult and very challenging. This work out and this is not working out. So my recommendation during the COVID time, a lot of people, including the research which I was referring to, has been conducted quite a lot of research around those herbs and the spice, because they thought these are medicinal plants. But it is not yet shared or approved or recommended, so that boldly I cannot say yes or no to that question. But from environment point of view, there are a lot of recommendations that the herbs and the spice has almost zero effect to the climate. The reason I'm saying so is we don't use any chemical fertilizers to reproduce. This is part of, I think, climate adaptation and mitigation strategy sometimes. And on top of that, a lot of people also say it cures like coughing, something like that. They add with, there could be some traditional way of using those things. Unless the science, come up with some kind of things, it is a bit difficult. The other thing, which, if I'm not allowed, I didn't mention the previous time, yesterday when we discussed about uses, uses are cuter or something like that we discussed. But in the case of producing or, in the case of herbs and the spice, these are not the plants that wait for 4 months or 3 months. It can be harvested in 1 month's time, in 2 months' time. So that means there is continuous income for the household. A reason to grow herbs and spices: one, users can use their own farm land, garden land. It needs less effort in terms of labor, and then they also absorb a lot of used labor or a lot of income to the family. Instead of waiting for avocado 2 years and 3 years to sell, there are herbs which can be also integrated with avocado. So, straight to your answer, I would say that this worked out in terms of recommending domestic. This doesn't. I have no answer. But we need that kind of support from the hub. That's how I deliberately flag this issue. Thank you.
Excellent. So some of the research areas have been presented. I'm not going to take any more questions. I'm now going to summarize so that we can meet your time. We have had a very good panel discussion here. The issues of specialty retail has been presented to us. The issues of the performance of the informal sector have to be looked at so that we're able to capacity build these farmers in terms of pricing, quality, and in terms of seeing the impacts of culture and in what we're able to do in terms of producing products for regional and international markets. The issue of quality and the volumes of the products that we produce also came up. So the issues of system certification, it means that we might need to have a call that just addresses these areas so they can be brought up and modules developed to be able to capacity build people so that they're able to produce products that can actually get into the market. The other area that has come out from these discussions is the issues of food mapping, on how we are able to use food mapping to create linkages. The other one that has come is how do we create demand for what we're growing? How do we link what we're growing to issues of food and nutrition challenges? Those have come up also. And then the issue of how we embrace our smallholder system to produce enough product that contributes to job creation so that we're able to solve the issues of unemployment. We also are looking at whatever we're producing, is there a customer willing to pay? And then have we packaged what we're producing in a way that can attract the market, like organic certification, so that we're able to meet whatever gaps that are put in place for us to be able to export. And then also looking at what we're producing, what of those can be sold, and then the production system we're using to produce, how do we change it? And this is a big change around where we're intercropping herbs and our fruit trees. So this is a completely new area of research that is coming up now so that we can ensure continuous income supply for the smallholder farmers. Also, we're being shown the importance of looking at our landscapes and working with our landscapes without disturbing them, but actually being able to harvest from our landscapes to create income for communities staying there of nutritious foods that not only provide food, but also provide an income for those groups, and also diversifying the product so that we're not always eating our food a particular way. The case of jackfruit, where you can also eat jackfruit meat, and that was something. It just shows the diversity of products we have, the marketing opportunities we have in the EAC, and the fact that we have groups of people here with the capacity to be able to train, to really help expand, so that we're not just stuck on avocado and mango. Thank you very much, and thank you for taking the time for listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the panel. Thank you for having us. And the team, you've done a very good job on that wonderful topic. Thank you very much. You may now resume your other seats.